Why you never use advice you learn, and one stupidly simple trick to help you fix that. What we fail to understand is the relationship between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Acquiring new knowledge and understanding our habits. The honest truth is change is difficult. Change of any form is actually extremely difficult. Change comes with a strong element of friction. Yeah? Because our mind loves what we're used to. Our mind loves our habits. Our mind loves the usual way of thinking, the usual standards and usual procedures in which we go to do things. But change starts in one place. It starts with your identity. You must understand that what change you're trying to make and identify with the version of yourself that is of that change. I'll give you an example. If you wish to become a lean individual and you're eating within a calorie deficit, you must identify with an individual who's mastered eating within that calorie deficit, right? And this one simple trick that's helped me ensure that I can implement any change is what I call the counter argument or counter thought. I'll give you an example. When you're trying to implement a change, oftentimes thoughts that are habitual within your mind come up. I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody wants to stop caring about what people think of them. Every time their mind poses a question, what would they think of me? You pose to yourself the question, only as much as they think themselves. What would they think of me? Only as much as they think of themselves. See? Boom. Counter thought, counter argument. And I'll tell you why. What we fail to understand about change is what we know on a logical level, we kind of don't understand on an emotional level. Because your emotions do not operate on logic. They operate on emotional conviction. Right? And that is this very strong emotional experience, which then is imprinted on you. So, through logic, consistency, and patience, change will come. Right? And I explain to you what I mean by that. You must constantly remind yourself, right, that you no longer identify with the version of yourself that thinks a certain way, that acts a certain way, or makes certain decisions that they used to. But now that you've shifted towards a version of yourself that sees things from a different perspective or paradigm that is self-serving. The example that I gave you, stop caring about what people think of you. Your mind is eventually going to think, like a lot of people know to consciously not care about what people think, but yet they find it hard to emotionally implement it because there's always going to be an element of fear. Because your emotions are not operating on logic, but through logic, consistency, and reminding yourself that you no longer identify with the version of yourself that thinks in that manner, you can change and shift towards the version of yourself that serves you, right? In the name of self-love, and no longer thinks in a way that isn't serving you. Example, let's say you're a perfectionist, right? And be like, damn, this video, you're a perfectionist. Oh, it's not perfect enough. Remind yourself that you'll only ever be as perfect as you are today, because all you really have is the infinite today. Self-doubt, damn, I don't know if I'm good enough. You only ever be as good as you are today, and you equally as enough today as you will be in the future when you know more. Here's the thing: we want to be so perfect. Yeah, we want to be the greatest version of ourselves. Oh, in fact, we don't even desire to be that. We want to appear as that. Right? But what we must understand is we're equally as enough today as we will be in the future. Right? And every time when you acquire new knowledge, your failure to implement that comes on the friction that comes with change, because change is difficult. But through patience and consistency, right? You must remind yourself that you identify with the new version of yourself that thinks in a manner that is self-serving and loving to the self. But this takes patience, because real change happens within your subconscious mind, right? And your subconscious mind is where all of your real habits come from. And change doesn't happen overnight. So you must be patient with yourself. The subconscious mind is like a child who you're trying to make eat vegetables in which they hate. They're not going to do it immediately. You've got to slowly tune them into doing it, right? You've got to slowly, in a loving manner, convince them into doing it. And your mind operates the same, right? You must be patient with yourself and trying to implement change, because you're doing something that you've never done before with yourself. So be patient. And every time you find yourself falling into your old ways, remind yourself that that version of self or that thought pattern or those habits no longer serve you, and that you identify with the new version of thinking, the new advice that you know. So when you remind yourself of that and you operate out of a place of self-love, you're able to get to where you want to go faster. Why? Because you have an understanding that, like, you know what I mean? You're not beating yourself up for not changing. People try to change, right? And they understand how much friction is involved. Yeah. And when the change is not happening quick enough, they beat themselves up and they quit. So they quit, then beat themselves up about it. Your mind doesn't work like that. Your subconscious mind is like a child, right? You've got to be gentle. You've got to be loving. Yeah. And you've got to be patient with it. Change isn't overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. Right? Remember that Rome wasn't built in a day. Every day, small building blocks. You must remind yourself, okay, these are my new patterns. This is the change I'm going to make, and this is how it's going to serve me. This is my new way of thinking. And eventually, sooner than you know, your new way of thinking, the advice that you have attained, will become your new normal, your new default settings. So remember the technique of the counter thought. Every time you have a thought that comes from your habitual way of thinking, propose to yourself a counter thought. Right? Shit. I don't feel like going to the gym today. I love myself enough to go to the gym. Why? Because I identify with the fittest version of myself. Right? The lowest version of myself I'm willing to accept is being a really fit person. See that? You see that? Oh, I don't feel like eating within my calorie deficit today. I no longer identify with that individual because in the name of self-love, to ensure that I feel amazing about myself in the future, I'm going to eat within this deficit so I can get to my goal quicker. Why? Because I identify with the version of myself who is extremely fit. In the name of self-love. So be patient with yourself. Be loving with yourself. And remember the technique of the counter thought. Every time you get a thought or a habit creep up on you, remember the counter thought of the new identity you identify with. It's been your boy K-Apps Community. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys. Like and share with a friend. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.